Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're talking about finding the probability of a compound event. Let's get right to it. So we're going to flip 3 nickels. What is the probability of flipping 2 heads and 1 tails? So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at the end result anytime that ended with 2 heads, 1 tails after flipping 3 individual nickels. So we could do a table. In this case, it's a little bit easier to go ahead and do a tree diagram. And hopefully by the end, you'll be able to see what I mean by that. So here we're going to have a nickel, and we're going to notice that the only options is it's either going to be heads or it's going to be tails. It's the only 2 options we can have. There is not a third option. That's it. Well, we've only thrown 1 of 3. So when we flip this nickel again, when we flip the next nickel or the same nickel, it could be heads or tails is its option. But that same nickel is right here, heads or tails, because the first nickel could have been heads and then a heads, or a heads, then a tails, or a tails, then a heads, or a tails, then a tails. Hopefully you're starting to see how a table might be a little bit overwhelming. So now we've done 2 of 3, because remember, we have 3 nickels. So at this point, we want to draw out the 2 options we have at each. We don't know which path we're actually on until we flip the nickels, but we can guess. I mean, we're only given 2 options. All right, we've got all of our roots done. Now we need to look at the results. Here, if we go heads, heads, heads. So that's an option, heads, heads, heads. We could have gone heads, heads, tails. Heads, heads, tails. We could have gone heads, tails, heads, heads, tails, heads. And so on, heads, tails, tails. Basically, you can line them up. I did a little bit off on this last line, but for the most part, you should be able to see it. I'll try to line them up so that if I follow this, the end result is straight over of following each line. So if I do the same thing here, then this would be tails, heads, heads, tails, heads, tails, 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 heads, and tails, tails, tails. Oh, okay. Now we've done all our picture. Our art teacher should be happy. Now let's look at the actual results. You flip 3 nickels. What is the probability of flipping 2 heads and 1 tail? So we can't have 3 heads. We can't have 1. We need exactly 2. Here's 2 and a tails. Here's 2 and a tails. Only 1. Here's 2 and a tails. Only 1, and none. So we have 3 options. So we have 3 that are going to be correct out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 possibilities. So what we find out is the probability of flipping 2 heads. Sorry, I'm just going to do this. 2 heads and 1 tail is equal to 3/8, or 37.5%. Now pause the video and copy what is on your screen into your notebook. Now that you're back, anytime you have to rewatch the video for clarity or to remember something, you need to write what you picked up in your notes. Use arrows, circles, shapes, pictures, whatever else you need to, but add it to your notes to make them yours. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, always remember that you are in school, and when you're learning, it's all about understanding the process, never about just the answer. We'll see you tomorrow.